Today, I find myself stranded in space. There's plenty of asteroids, giant wrecked spaceships, and these lovely things. Oh, Jesus. This is Astrometica, a space survival game in early access with a really good number of positive reviews. I'm playing through 100% of what is available and playable so far. I'll be figuring out how to survive on my own, building the most impressive space station that I can, exploring the mysteries of a vast asteroid field, and hopefully find out what happened to, well, everyone else. The game starts off with me frantically staring up at this escape pod because there's a big hole in my spaceship where I work at. Looking back, I probably should have stayed to help my friends patch it up, but that's besides the point. When I finally awoke, it turned out that I was still in my escape pod. There was the classic health, thirst, hunger, and oxygen meters, about what I expected for an adventure like this. I also noticed a list of things I was instructed to do, as if the miracle of me surviving alone in space wasn't enough. I was a little hungry by this point, so I looked in these storage chests to find some water and some leftover McDonald's. Space burger, great. In the other chest there were some basic supplies like a health pack and oxygen tank. I also found a log of what had happened to me so far. It's been a couple of days now floating aimlessly in this pod. I have no controls, nothing but this metal coffin in the silence of space. Reading the logs, it didn't look like a good time, and my mental had started to spiral as the days became months and supplies were running low. Wow, I've got days left, maybe less. Feels like the end. This might be my last log. Unless... a new hope. Ah, yes, Eureka! In a sudden turn of events, my pod had suddenly wedged itself into something, and I was apparently beginning to feel some sense of hope. Guess I'm the one writing this. It's a way to get out. So I've just been... Whoa! Wow. Not realizing the door was unlocked, I was greeted by this, the Theta 9 asteroid field. And it was both equal parts magnificent and terrifying. And this is my escape pod parking job. It would appear I managed to perfectly park on this particularly flat asteroid. Pretty lucky because as I continued to look around, it was clear others were not so fortunate. Eventually a silvery rock caught my eye, and as I drifted closer to it, I was eager to see what it was. However, there was just one problem. Silver, right? Or something? Mining tool. Do not have the mining tool. Luckily for me, floating upwards a bit to this abandoned pod, I found some ice that I could pick up, which will definitely come in handy later. However, once inside, I found I couldn't actually access any of the loot because I didn't have the scrapper. It was clear that I needed to head back and spend some time crafting up some tools. Back inside my pod, I checked what I needed for the scrapper as well as the mining tool. As I expected to build either of these, there were a few things I needed to gather. A battery, 2 irons, and electronic part. Battery needs copper wire and coal. Copper wire needs copper and iron. Yep, it's gonna be one of those games. However, once back in space, I realized that while I couldn't harvest the larger rocks since I didn't have a mining tool just yet, I was able to scoop up these smaller chunks of iron, more iron, and the occasional copper. I also found these small packages of organics as well as some pieces of quartz. I didn't know what was important and what wasn't, so I just slurped up everything that I could at this point. Heading back to my pod, I made myself lunch. Oh, I can make my space burger, that's good. And then took a quick look at what I needed for the mining tool. The only missing ingredient was the battery, which required some coal. So I ventured back out, and it didn't take me long until probably this, yep, that is coal. Back at the fabricator, I made a battery out of the coal I found, and eventually the mining tool. How do I take out the mining tool? I'm assuming it's one of these? Yep. Oh yeah, the Rockbuster 3000. I gobbled up some water and this delicious space burger, and I was on my way out to start putting the Rockbuster 3000 to good use. Reminds me a little bit of my electric toothbrush. After mining this copper and this rock full of iron, I headed back to the pod, and I realized I was able to craft not only the scrapper, but also I can make the jetpack. Ooh. Being the loot goblin I am, I want to craft the backpack, but that'll have to wait because I needed silver, which was something I still hadn't come across yet. Oh, now we're moving. Watch out! Watch out! Making it to the abandoned pod was also easier now. I was able to use the scrapper to whack away at some of the cargo boxes left in there. After some thorough whacking, I found some more fabric, copper, and iron. But it didn't take long until I came across gold. Ooh, we got some good stuff. It wasn't silver, but I figured the gold would come in handy for something at this point. I explored a little bit more around the area. However, I had to rush back because my oxygen tank was running out. Can I make it back in 20 seconds? There we go. Here we go. What? I made it back to the pod just in time, though maybe not in one piece. I stocked up on an extra oxygen tank and, against my better judgment, headed back out. Slow down, slow down. This is a big... It was like a big Jolly Rancher. It was, in fact, not a Jolly Rancher, but rather a pretty large quartz deposit. Useful for sure, but I also remembered seeing the silvery rock from earlier. This might be the silver we need. Oh, that's ice. Okay, that's not silver. That's just ice. Okay. Back at the pod, I put together the oxygen tank using the quartz I found earlier, which boosted my oxygen timer from 70 seconds to 100 seconds. Oh, here we go. There we go. Now it can last a little bit longer. By this point, I realized I could also make this purple scanner, which... that looks very familiar. Since I had my jetpack and upgraded oxygen supply, that meant I could go a lot further out. I saw some more shimmering rocks in the distance, so I made a break for it, hoping it'd be the silver I needed for my backpack. They're silver, right? Right? Oh. This looks kind of like ice. But maybe it's not. Let's see. This is ice. Okay, this is all ice. Continuing on and further away from the safety of my starting area, I went towards a signal on my screen to an abandoned emergency pod. As I got closer, it dawned on me how big this map truly was. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot of stuff here. Once inside, I scanned this vehicle fragment. Yep. That'll give me an epilepsy. As well as this skipper fragment, which was a welcome sight, given I'll probably need something a bit more than my jetpack to get around this expansive asteroid belt. I also whacked these packages open, unlocking the flashlight blueprint. Once back outside, I had about 45 seconds left of oxygen, so I decided to try to make it to that blue dome thingy, hoping that I can refill on air there. I'll risk it for the biscuit. I'm gonna risk it for the biscuit. Come on, take me there. I hope this force field doesn't take... Hope this force field lets me in. Come on. For once in my life, a gamble paid off. This was Mox Island, a big floating rock with lush blue grass, this weird blue Q-tip looking plant, and an abandoned base. I was half hoping there would be someone inside to help me, but given the condition of it, I didn't think that was likely. No one seems to be home. No one was home indeed. Half expecting a jump scare, I scanned this habitat builder, which unlocked a few basic buildings. I came across this month's payroll, and I found a log reader on the table. I could see a spaceship wreckage. It looks ancient. It's been floating here for centuries. Could be nothing, could be something valuable. Either way, I can't ignore it. Whoever left the note seemed to think exploring a crashed spaceship for more supplies was a good idea. They did leave behind some useful equipment as well, like this upgrade station that I was able to scan, as well as these wall-mounted storage units, a welcome sight given I'll definitely need more space to hoard my loot. I would also like to point out that while this game is still pretty early on in development, I do hope, for the sake of my eyes, that they fix the flashing scanning animation soon. Nevertheless, going to the next room of the base, I came across another log that details the inhabitants first noticing the giant derelict spaceship that had crashed nearby. Back outside, I discovered the Q-tip trees were also whackable, which gave me some fruit and seeds. Useful because I was getting tired of living off space burgers. There was also some fungi that I collected. Yep, just depleting this area of its natural resources. Perfect. Definitely fulfilling my role as a human being. At this point, a pit stop back at the escape pod was in order. It was a direct shot from Mox Island, and I needed fresh new batteries to top off on some food and water and empty my inventory. I wasn't able to find more silver for the backpack. However, as I drifted my way back, you know, there are those weird looking rocks. Maybe that has silver in it. I don't know. Get a little closer. Get a little closer. Nope. Nope. Can I whack it? No. All right, this is just decorative, I guess. Surely not, right? Surely not. What if like this whole thing was silver and I just like never noticed, you know? Like what if this is silver? Nope. So by now, I think I had explored and harvested just about everything in the immediate vicinity of my pod. There was that whole other area behind the abandoned space pod we came across earlier, so I felt that that was the next place to go. After chugging a few waters, I headed again off to Mox Island. It was a nice place to load up on oxygen before the long journey. However, what I didn't realize was how long of a journey it would really be. You see, with limited oxygen and a jetpack that had to continually rest between bursts, I wasn't exactly traveling across the cosmos in a particularly speedy fashion. And while I saw a distant blue bubble similar to Mox Island, the further away I drifted from the safety of my pod, the more nervous I became. Okay. is like really far. Wow. Closer. Yeah, this is a lot farther than I thought. It might be bad trying to get there. Because I might not be able to make it back. Uh-oh. While I had a spare oxygen tank on hand that I was able to pump, a massive problem presented itself. How to get back. I used the only spare oxygen tank I had to get here, so unless there was an extra tank or a miracle here on this island, the return trip was going to get dicey. Well, wherever we are, we're here. I made it inside this storage container, busted up a few chests, which, spoiler alert, didn't have any spare oxygen, and also scanned this hydroponic planter. There were also these sealed containers, but it didn't seem like I had the tools to get to the goodies inside just yet. At the center of the space island was a storage container, which I promptly cracked open, and at last I had found it. Silver? Oh, that's good. Tritium? Nanite? I realized my backpack was too stuffed to fit everything, so a return trip will be needed. Also, there was this log reader that I found. Hey Alex, did you forget this chest over here? Chest? What chest? I'm not sure where Alex and Ethan are now, but from the conversation, they seem like pretty nice guys, even hinting that a plasma cutter will be necessary to open up the locked containers. I quietly assured myself that nothing bad had happened to them. Probably. By now, I want to do a quick once-over on the island. I didn't want to miss anything, especially if there were more clues about what happened to Alex and Ethan, or at the very least, where to go next. I didn't find another oxygen tank here, and while I'd pride myself on being able to hold my breath longer than most, I knew I was doomed if I tried heading all the way back to base now. Oh, pretty much doomed. Doomed here. While pondering my next move, I spotted another signal marker, a potential lead that might just help me make it out of this in one piece. Let's hope this thing has a pocket of air for us. If it doesn't, we're boned. The signal was reading about 500 meters out, but what awaited me there? I had no idea. In this moment, I was just hoping whatever was on the other end was better than running out of oxygen. And while you're watching me float towards that next location, you'll notice some new objectives that had popped up on my HUD. By this point, I hadn't constructed the habitat builder yet, but we'll get to that shortly. There is something. I'll be honest, I don't think I'm gonna make it. Oh boy. Oh wait, that looks like gold, but I don't have much air left. Wait, is this a place we can go inside? Oh my god, please, please, yes. Oh jeez, thank god. That's really scary. This was the old hub station, and by the looks of it, everyone had already clocked out for the day, or were eaten by something. Hello? I assumed this was some sort of mining operation. As welcoming as those really creepy caves were, I want to explore more of the interior, eventually coming across this log. Something's not right. The outpost power just went down and everything's gotten eerily quiet. I've been calling out, but no one's answering me. Where the hell are you guys? I'm heading to the emergency generators to get the power back online. The corridors are pitch black. It feels like the shadows are moving. Oh boy. The log provided more questions than answers. By a stroke of luck, I accidentally hit the scan button on my scanner and realized that there were blueprints for a laser tool nearby. Entering the room, I scanned the laser tool as well as this neat work table. There was also a log from Alara, Marcella, and Mathieu, familiar names I had read about on the Mox Island log. Alara also found a set of coordinates on one of the consoles. It looks like there's another outpost not far from here. I'm gonna head over and check it out. Seeing how there was no sign of anyone, I'm not sure if the plan of splitting up worked out the way they were hoping. Either way, there was no time to worry since, you know, I was burning my retinas scanning this bed and flower pots. Okay. Alright, let's see what's hiding here. Apparently everyone at this point had gone missing, so I was half expecting a jump scare of some sort. However, as I went deeper, whatever was here had left a long time ago, and I would be spared of my heart palpitations. At least for now. Uh-oh. Ugh. There's a body. Like I said earlier, this seemed like some sort of old mining operation, and as terrifying as it looked initially, nothing lulls me into a false sense of security more than loot. There was an asteroid miner fragment that I scanned, as well as a few big rocks that I could mine. The good news? Well, I think I had just about figured out where the silver had been hiding, because this cave was full of it. From my face, you can see how just completely overjoyed I was. Clearly, I was excited beyond measure as I exclaimed, "More silver, great." Eventually, the cave led to this room where I found this log from Alex Turner, who didn't seem to particularly enjoy working for Moxora, saying, "We all know what happens if Moxora's expectations are met. They make life hell for anyone involved." There was also a spare oxygen tank, thank God, as well as a tier 2 backpack. Smelter machine. Fragment, right? Epilepsy warning for those who are watching. Going through some of the lockers and crates, I knew how to come back. Gold, silver, blueprint boxes. It was clear that there was just too much good loot for my backpack, which was just too small. We're gonna need to come back. This has been most plentiful in terms of stuff, but I just have no more room. I just have no more room. There's just no room for any of this. The return trip was actually way less anxiety inducing. I had a couple of spare oxygen refills in my backpack from the old hub, so getting back was relatively straightforward. Thing is, I don't even know where's a good spot to put down my first base. I think this seems like as good of a spot as any. Fast forwarding a bit here, I eventually made it back to my base where I was able to finally make ta-da! Backpack time. Oh yeah. Speaking of base building, I was also able to craft this habitat builder tool. Looks a lot like something we're all very familiar with. Of course, no base building survival game would be complete without dumping an avalanche of base building parts, machines, and decorations. Given that this is only early access, I can only imagine what it will look like in the future. But what I did see was a bit overwhelming to me all the same. Oh man, this is gonna be a lot of stuff. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna need a lot. This is a little more than I had imagined. Especially since if I want to put my habitat way out there, I need to make sure I have all the things to start building before I go there. And so I spent a long time gathering and tallying up exactly what I need to start my base. Like I had mentioned, the plan was actually to set up my base further away from the escape pod and its fabricator, which meant I needed to basically stock up and come ready with most, if not all the materials to set up the airlock, a room, power supply, and the new fabricator. On a side note, I also put together this flashlight module. After taking one last good look at my storage chest, I headed out. This should be good. All right, let's put our base back. Oops. Let's put our base back in that corner, way out there. And so I traveled out the pod, hung a little left, went towards the abandoned emergency pod, passed through this archway, glided towards these floating glass ball things, and made a beeline for the old hub. And we're back. Let's build a base. Would be a good spot. Right here? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Well, there's no power. Well, it's right in that there was no power. The good news was that in Astrometica, there was still oxygen, so I was able to get a quick refill in there. Pretty handy since I realized that I could basically have an unlimited supply of oxygen on the go if I just carried around the pieces for the airlock and build one whenever I needed. Anyways, I decided to put the base a little higher than I had originally set it up, and well, let's just say this won't be the only time I will rearrange my base, but we'll get to that later. The more pressing issue though was this. I guess my question is, how do I power this thing? It's not that obvious. I ended up seeing another beacon not too far off, and I thought it'd be a good idea to explore there. I wasn't quite ready for what I was about to run into. Oh, no. Lava zone flashbacks. There's something alive over there. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Oh, scrapper, and then hit, smack. Okay. Yep. Oh my, the heck was that? Whatever it was, I wasn't about to let it have all my loot, so I decided to head back. While I'm still not sure what this alien is called, it reminded me a bit of a cross between a squid and a facehugger from the Alien movies. Either way, as I drew closer, I saw that the monster was still waiting by my loot box, but I figured I could sneak by to nab my stuff without it noticing. Oh, get off, then, Oh, I got him off. Okay. That scrapper did do it. Okay. This does not have what we need. Also, now that I have a bit of extra space, I went back to the mining room in the old hub station to grab up the remaining loot there, which would come in handy for my base building adventure. Technically, I could just drop stuff on the ground, right? I actually don't need a storage container, right? Like, I could just do one of these. I mean, doesn't look pretty, but... Wow. Stupid. So stupid. So I would later discover one massive issue with this method, which we'll get to in a bit. For now, I was actually at a point where I realized I had massively underestimated how much I needed to get a base going. Making my way all the way back to the escape pod, I spent quite a bit of time mining these asteroids. I even started to get a bit more organized and mapped out exactly what I needed to get my base set up. Well, I can pin this. Oh, thank goodness. I also thought now was as good a time as any to start exploring a bit more. After all, up to this point, I still wasn't able to figure out how to power my base, and I figured going on a little space adventure would reveal some answers. Going straight out of the escape pod, I made my way towards Mox Island, and eventually past the island and towards a signal reading that I was getting, a few hundred meters out. I also came across the remains of the giant derelict ship that I heard about earlier, as well as this new point of interest, the vertical station. What we got? Ooh. No airlock here. Oh, come on. There didn't seem to be any more of those red kamikaze drones. In fact, on the plus side, there did seem to be a lot of loot. However, there was just one problem. I didn't have a lot of oxygen left. Dude, there's so much stuff here, but it's all, there's no airlock. The vertical station did live up to its name because I ended up scanning these sections of the base to unlock some more base components. There was still a ton left to loot and explore, but sadly my time here was limited since I didn't pack that much oxygen. So after some struggling, I made my way out and back towards my base. Well, I don't have power, but I wouldn't consider myself a master architect by any means, so getting the joints to align wasn't necessarily a walk in the park. Still, with a little elbow grease and a couple of gray hairs, I managed to get the two pieces together, and I went inside to check how it turned out. It's not lit, and I don't have power, but at the very least, I can do... Came prepared. How do I rotate? Q. Right there. Ta-da! We just don't have enough power to do anything. But at least we have it. The thing that's like really missing is a solar panel or something. Let's see if we can find something like that out here. We need a way to power our base. I took some time to scroll through what I was able to build, and I didn't have the blueprints for building out solar panels. I decided to look around again, this time going towards those two giant balls. Oh, friendly. Vehicle station. Oh. Just in luck. I unlocked the vehicle station as well as the skipper, making the trip out here very worthwhile indeed. However, besides that, there didn't seem to be much here worth suffocating for. So I made my way back over to Mox Island again in search of solar panel fragments. Well, there's gotta be more at those bubbles, right? Like, surely. And the only bubbles are really this way. I think it's a couple that way, but let's start by looking at these. And there's gotta be a reason why that one's yellow. So let's take a look. By this point in the adventure, I was doing a lot of exploring. I eventually made my way past Mox Island again, but instead of going to the vertical station, I went directly for these blue bubble islands. By this point, I had more than enough oxygen to make the journey, and I had the help of a jetpack, which made the trip a lot easier. As I drifted along, I couldn't help but take it all in and get this sense of awe and wonder. And I have to say, the music was just incredible for the ambience of this game. This is cool. It's a vibe. Activating the jetpack boosters, I was able to go past the vertical station and to this first blue bubble. There were more of those metal containers, and since I didn't have a laser cutter tool just yet, I wasn't able to do much with them. I hopped over to the neighboring blue dome and landed on some of this beautiful neon green grass. There didn't seem to be anything here, at least at first. That is, until I took a closer look. What is this? Oh! Oh boy. I had stumbled across a decommissioned mining outpost, or at least I assumed so since there weren't exactly any signs, but there was a lot of delicious looking mining boxes laying around. I came across this hook tool, which I scanned, as well as a locked door, which said WIP on the keypad, which I assumed meant work in progress, so it didn't seem like we can get in just yet. Back outside, I also realized that the yellow dome island was actually a lot farther out than I had thought. Given I had filled my pockets with some pretty good stuff, I did didn't want to run the risk of going all the way down there and running out of oxygen midway. Or even worse, realize that the yellow dome blocked me from going in somehow. I was in a bit of a conundrum by this point. I couldn't actually build up and power my first base, and after a good amount of time exploring new areas, I had scanned a ton of blueprints for other items. However, anything related to power generation was doing a pretty good job at hiding itself. On the plus note though, the music continued to impress me. Music kinda nice. Amazing. Yes. This is hype-ass music, dude. Also, to spare you guys the details, while I was heading back to base, I did a little bit of research on exactly how to acquire solar panels. And, well, you may hate me for this, but it turned out the answer was right in front of me this whole time. The power structures got unlocked after I had built out the last component, the habitat corridor. Can I finally make this panel? No, glass. Wait, I have enameled glass? No, that's not right. You're right. Now that I've strewn everything everywhere, it seems I can't find anything. Time to make the solar panels, which I should have enough of this time. And also, we can make vehicle stations. Great. At last, solar panels. It turned out setting them up was pretty simple. They attached to the sides of the airlock as well as the corridors I had set up. At this point, my base was looking like a real, legit setup now. Or so I thought. Not enough power. Wait. There's other things too, right? There's a battery. Oh. There we go. Things look on. All three pieces. Oh yeah. Welcome to my pad. It's so swanky. Oh, this thing's actually working. Okay. All right, we are cooking. I was indeed, as the kids say, cooking by this point. With the base fully powered up, I was able to use the in-house fabricator instead of having to run all the way back to the escape pod to be able to craft, well, anything. I made an extra solar panel and even add this neat little power display so I can take a look at all the fancy numbers that told me that the base was doing good. Asteroid miner. Oh man. Copper bar, gold bar, 2 nickels. I think I might be able to make that. Hold on. Oh, maybe I need a smelter for that. Okay. Battery charger. Coal, copper. I need a lot more copper. Jesus. Okay, what about... oh, jeez. Okay, this is the part. This is the part in our adventure where we're just overwhelmed by what we gotta make. After staring at all of the different things I could build, one thing became clear. I needed a ton of gold bars, and for that, I needed the smelter. There we go. Oh. Jesus, we need more power. I soon came to the realization that while the location I picked for my base was pretty good, there was one frequently used material that wasn't immediately available nearby. Quartz. Typically what I've been doing up to this point was to go all the way out to my escape pod to mine it, which wasn't exactly the most efficient. I did come across this funky looking giant asteroid that was labeled as quartz, but none of my tools had any luck harvesting it. Well, I'll have to come back to this in a bit. On the plus side, I did end up setting down this additional small habitat battery. 250 power capacity. Okay, right there. Okay, hopefully it does not shut off the power this time. It's fine. Let's make some gold bars, baby. I forgot why I needed to make gold bars. Hold on. I'll find it. The asteroid miner. I picked up this location for my base specifically for how close it was to the asteroid field, so having an automated system to mine for me definitely sounded like the best idea I had in a long time. However, I soon realized that I could only place the asteroid miner on top of a corridor segment, a lot like the habitat batteries. I ended up creating an extra corridor, and after some finagling, then we can now place the advanced mining thing on top of here, right? Right, it said I could. Why can't I? Hello? Is it one of those funky... Wait. Oh, whoa. We are mining it. That looks kind of slow. That looks... Okay, I thought it was gonna be a lot more than that. So where does it go? Where does all that stuff go? Ah, just pulling it. All right, cool. That was I'm very whelmed by that. I'm very whelmed. Okay, so despite my lukewarm reaction to the laser, it actually will come in clutch throughout my time here and was definitely worth its weight in gold. No pun intended. The next step was to finally construct the battery charger. By this point, I had enough empty batteries to fill a small landfill, and it would be great to finally reuse them. We did it. Sustainable energy. Unlit. After getting the lights back on and the battery charger up and running, it was time to focus on my next big project, the vehicle station. Remember those skippers we scanned earlier? Yeah, it was finally time to put one together. Don't get me wrong, the jetpacks were nice and all, but I was ready for an upgrade. To spare you guys the details, I ended up going back to the escape pod starting area to mine up all this quartz, and after a quick trip back, dumped everything on the floor of my base. Can we stick it here? Whoa, 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 you slow down there. Oh, wait, oh. There we go. Look. No. Oh, there we go. Did it go? Nope. God. Or are the solar panels? No, solar panels are not blocking it. So yeah, it turned out that these solar panels were possibly blocking it. I ended up making a new corridor on the other side and attached the vehicle station there. Maybe some of the solar panels messes up with it, or maybe I'm just bad. Once inside my base, I moseyed over to the console and I saw, to my delight, the skipper. The bad news? Well, I couldn't make it just yet because I didn't have all the necessary materials. I also realized by this point, I should probably start cleaning up around my house. As much as I don't usually mind toiling in my own refuse, it was getting a bit embarrassing now. Yeah, I could probably stop being cheap. What's better, wall storage or storage box? Let's try wall storage. Not bad. We can put all of our iron in here. This will be our iron reserves. Holy shit, this is gonna be really annoying. Okay. Okay. Yep. I've learned my lesson. I ended up having to make not one, but 3 wall storage lockers to hold all of the iron that was laying around. I still had a fair bit of resources on the floor, but I decided time to get back to making more storage lockers later. A decision that would come back to haunt me soon enough. Anyways, I made this power cell. Ta-da! Okay, power cell. Great. Before I realized that while I had an overabundance of iron, I didn't actually have nearly enough copper or nickel to make the skipper. Heading back outside, I mined this copper asteroid, but nickel is actually a material that was playing a pretty good job of hard to get by this point. Then it hit me, the caves inside the old hub. I remember seeing ore spawns there before, so I took a trip back, scanner in hand, ready to hunt down some nickel. And sure enough, after some scanning and try not to get lost again, I finally spotted some nickel deposits along the cave walls. Node. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Silver node, nickel node. Yeah, I'll grab another. Skipper time, baby. Oh, the skipper was finally online. Feeling like the true space engineer that I had become at this point, I took a second to take it all in. However, I surely went back out to get a closer look. There was a power cell in the back, which is fully loaded at 100%, and after a quick test drive, I could tell that this would be the key to both venturing further out into the asteroid fields and making horrible decisions at high speeds. Whoa. Why am I straddling it that much? The only problem is it doesn't give me oxygen. So yeah, it won't be like a little hub or anything. It's gotta use it for transport. Back inside, I realized I could also start building out some more of my tech, like this upgrade station. Oh, the panels this way. Ooh, backpack V2. Okay, let me fix this. Let me just fix this. Hold on. Perfect. All right, jetpack. I could improve my oxygen capsule, which is kind of nice. 3 fungu. I think I actually have that. I'm glad. I knew these things were useful for something. Take this off. Should. There we go. Oh, here we go. And just like that, my oxygen supply went up from 70 to 135. By now, my technological progress was just blazing by at a pretty good speed. But to be fair, I did also spend a lot of time keeping up with some of the more basic tasks of resource gathering. I still needed to maintain my water intake, so I spent a while harvesting these ice blocks near the 2 giant glass balls. I was also starting to get lazy with actually organizing my resources by this point. Perfect. Remember that blue island we visited earlier on in our journey through this area? Well, I figured it was time for a little reunion, so I hopped on the skipper and cruised back down there for a quick visit. The island still had those gargoyle trees, which I proceeded to whack with my scrapper, and what's even better was they were pretty handy for filling my grumbling stomach. On my way heading back, I also made another important discovery. While my base was drowning in iron, this island was surrounded with almost exclusively copper asteroids. Copper galore. Oh yeah. Despite my best efforts, my to-do list back at base wasn't shrinking. The researching station was up next, but pulling together the ingredients was a bit of a challenge now due to how much my mess had compounded on itself over time. You know, all these rocks look awfully alike. And I know what you're thinking, candy, you probably should just put them in storage containers. That would be logical. After putting down the research station, oh geez, and setting up another battery on the base, the research station was finally online. That should be good. Perfect. Interact. Yeah, because I actually do have some blueprints around here somewhere. Wait, I think I found one. Putting in the blueprints I did have, I got a shield module as well as enameled glass, which was a bit underwhelming. Okay, neither of those things sound like spear or something, you know, to deal with that those octopus things. The laser tool was one of those things I probably should have made a priority by now, but hey, this wouldn't be a Candy Route playthrough without getting distracted by some shiny loots and side quests. Unfortunately, it had become painfully obvious that I need the laser tool to move forward. The only problem? Nickel. Leaving my base, I decided to explore a bit more to find the resources I needed. While on my skipper, I noticed there was another blue island that I never explored. Along the way, I ran into this cluster of coal, which will come in handy later, as well as these crates that required, you guessed it, the laser tool. I also discovered where all the silver had been hiding. This island was surrounded by silver asteroids, much like the previous island was with copper. Useful, especially as I get into more advanced tech. Take a quick little pit stop here. All this stuff is laser tool. Wait, there's some stuff down there. Hold on, hold on. What is this? Oh, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up, pull up. Jeez. Luckily, this time, I was able to evade these self-destructing drones, in large part thanks to my trusty skipper. This half-destroyed pit dome area did have some useful loot though. I mined these celestite packages that I found, which I vaguely remember being a material I would need eventually. Probably. Also, remember when I said my mess would come and bite me in the butt? Well, I had logged off around this point, and when I relogged and headed back into my base, uh-oh. Dude. And that, my friends, is the face of a man who's lost everything, including his mind. And truthfully, things did look tidier, but at what cost? That's so much! Yeah, apparently in this build of the game, anything you leave on the ground despawns when you exit the save. I actually even tested it with some spare iron. I saved the game, exited the save, entered the save, and with a bit of loading, eventually got back in, and this is starting to sound like a magic trick, but it was gone. Dude. And no, the loot hadn't clipped outside underneath the base or anything. Honestly, looking back, this was probably a well-deserved outcome of the debauchery that I was doing with my loots. All right, yep. Note to self, don't make a mess. After some thinking, I realized that while I had lost about 70% of the loot I had, most of it could be easily replaced. That is, well, except the gold and nickel. Sadly, that meant the laser tool was, again, further away from my reach. But I'm not one to simply give up, and I ended up spending a lot of time exploring the nearby areas to try to build up my resources again. I eventually stumbled across this abandoned pod, which had some scannables for equipment that I already had, as well as some mining packages. It wasn't much, but I was grateful for the piece of gold I found. Gold! On the way back to the base, I made a pretty exciting discovery. Turned out that the asteroid field nearby had a decent amount of gold ore just sitting there, almost like a sign that the universe itself took pity on me and was throwing me a bone. Pretty soon after, I started putting down the recycling machine. Back it up, back it up, back it up. Yeah, this is a good spot for the recycler. Given that I found gold in the nearby asteroid belt, I decided to explore a bit deeper. Maybe the ore I needed all this while was right in my backyard. However, it wasn't long until I came across another abandoned outpost. What is this? The key card for Theta 9. I did not have the key card for Theta 9. Luckily for me, there was this abandoned pod that had passed by earlier. And upon entering, key card and a body. Uh-oh. This was the first person I'd come across so far, though they weren't much for conversation since, well, they were very dead. But they did have the engineer suit that I could scan, which was a nice consolation prize. I even came across this log where Matthew accidentally betrays Marcella, leaving her to die. Looks like something really bad happened. Oh, nickel. One nickel. Excellent. There's a lot of little logs here. Laura, I've reached the other hub. I found a cargo pod. It's fully operational. It has supplies, enough to get me out of here. I'm sorry, but I have to go. Matthew, what are you saying? You're leaving us after everything we've been through? Oh. Anyways, at least I got the Theta key card, but I do need to stock up on some oxygen. So we're gonna head back. Come back again. Going back to the base at this point turned out to be the right call because along the way, I came across this rock that was slightly different in color than the other ones I've run into. Iridium. Iridium sounds nice. I wasn't sure what the iridium would be used for at this point, but I was sort of patting myself on the back for finding it. I put the 3 iridium in my bag for later and headed back to the Theta 9 outpost. Once at the entryway, I used the key card I found earlier to get in. Inside, I could see that the power had gone off, but for now at least, nothing seemed to be interested in jumping out and making me regret my life choices. I even found a few scannables for furniture, which will be nice for making my base more comfy. Wouldn't mind getting that. I also found this log from Galen Orris, who had a pretty interesting story of what happened here. 3 cycles ago, strange signals began, static, fragmented transmissions. Ships arrived battered, crews in shock. They spoke of things beyond the gate, things that don't make any sense. He went on to describe a warp gate opening on its own, followed by crew members mysteriously vanishing one by one. As for where they went, I had no clue, but judging by the ominous tone of the log, it didn't seem like they went to a relaxing beach planet. If anyone's reading this, leave this place. Don't end up like us. Oh boy. Probably overreacting, right? Surely. There's nothing out here. Surely. Okay. And a crystal. Oh, whoa. Blue crystal. This is fine to mine, right? It's not some, like, giant dragon egg. From the looks of it, if it was some sort of giant space leviathan egg, Mom wasn't home, luckily. Also, I did end up getting a big habitat battery, which made me happy inside, and I continued further into the mines. There were a few nickel deposits here as well. Nickel? Oh, thank God. I continued to follow and aggressively mine the blue crystals. For a while, that was all there seemed to be in this cave. That was until... Whoa. The heck is this? Looks like someone left their mining equipment around. While the crew of Theta 9 was nowhere to be seen, their equipment stuck around. I guess whatever took them was only interested in their bodies, which, now that I think about it, is a pretty horrific revelation. A lot of the equipment that I was scanning, I already had. There were these nice mining packages with some gold in them, but more importantly, I came across... power cell charger fragment. I actually need this. Yeah, because my skipper runs out of power quite quickly. Ooh, I need a second piece. That sucks. I also found the Theta 9 hull keycard. Remember when we first arrived at Theta 9, there was that other entryway? I ended up taking the keycard to that door and went through. My OBS recording corrupted here, so you'll have to take my word on this one. On the other side, I found the living quarters area for the crew. The place was in complete disarray with exposed wires and debris strewn everywhere, and honestly, it reminded me a little of my own base back in the early days. As I ventured further in, no one seemed to be home. There were a lot of doors locked with work in progress on them, but I continued searching anyways. Fortunately for me, some of these doors were unlocked and had loot in them, like this tier 3 jetpack fragment. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here. I didn't think whoever lived here would be coming back anytime soon, so I collected the belongings they had in their lockers, you know, for safekeeping. There was also a log between 2 miners who seemed to further hint at the laser tool being necessary to open up some door. A nice reminder for me to, you know, actually build the laser tool. However, at this point, I was too busy exploring the rest of the base. Most of the doors by this point were locked and had specific names, so I assumed that meant at some point I'd come across the key cards for each specific door. I was going to head back to base at this point until I came across this small vent, which I realized I could fit through. Let's just check. As I crawled through the ventilation shaft, I couldn't help but start questioning my decision making. However, I pressed on, and soon I arrived in what looked like a storage room. The claustrophobic journey was well worth it because I was able to find the other power cell charger fragments as well as some other loot. Power cell. Tanks package. What? You get a tank? Oh. Oxygen tank. Okay. Yeah. A bit disappointed that I wasn't, in fact, going to be able to build the latest gen M1A3 Abrams, I continued going through the loot available to me in the storage room. There was a Celestite package, as well as a blue crystal package. However, by this point, my inventory was full, and I knew I had to head back. Wait. Got the keycard. Oh. Okay, I think we just made a big loop. I did one last check of the storage room and found this depressing log of a crew member who got crushed underneath the shelf I was standing on. What is even more horrible was they hinted at something coming for them, something scraping against the walls, the airlocks. While it was definitely sad to see that this person used their dying breath to record a message log, I was grateful for the warning. However, now it was time to get back to base. I headed back out down this hallway, out the door, and towards my skipper. At base, it was finally time. I did one last check of what I needed for the laser tool, smelted a few gold bars, and we have done it. Finally. Okay. How does this work? Oh. Okay, perfect. Now, while this may seem like one small step for a space explorer, this was in fact a huge step for this little candy room. I was pretty excited to give this thing a whirl, so I headed back to Theta 9 because I remember seeing some celestite outcrops that required the laser tool. Okay, got my laser gun. We can actually mine some of this stuff now. Ooh, watch this. Wow, it's really big. It's really, oh my God, it bursted all over me. After bursting every celestite outcrop that I could find, I headed back across the tunnel towards the living quarters. I had a feeling that maybe I could use the laser tool to open up or activate some of the doors that were sealed shut. Okay. Do I need to use my laser gun for this? Nope. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I had no luck. The crazy thing was, I went back out into the hallway and tested a laser on a few more different doors, but nothing seemed to be opening. Hold on. I don't have that. I have this. Wait. We crawl into any more holes? Dude, Subnautica reference. The little eye fish. Nice. I spent a bit more time to do one last check around the base before giving up. Back at my own base, I realized that while my base positioning was decent for the automated laser miner, it wasn't great. I kept getting heaps of iron when I know just a bit further into the asteroid field, there was copper, gold, and coal deposits that I could be tapping into. Honestly, I kind of want to move it this way, but will the game be mad at me if I do that? I'll move my base all the way out here. Yeah, this is probably a better spot. To say the ensuing 1 hour was a headache would be an understatement. I won't go too much into detail, but here's the general gist. I started with setting down a preliminary airlock and the habitat space in the new spot. I then headed back to the old base to start carefully deconstructing things and shuttling those materials to the new base. I did my best to recreate the old base as closely as possible off memory. I did some playing around with the arranging of the habitat batteries and asteroid miner. Then I headed back to the original base to start the process of deconstructing the machines and equipment on the inside, transferring them over and rebuilding them at the new base one at a time. I also decided to start working on my storage and organization. After all, if this was going to be my forever home, I wanted to start it on the right foot and do things right this time. Okay, lots of storage. copious amounts of storage, actually. This may come as a shock, but I was also one to actually label and dedicate certain lockers for certain resources. I don't typically do this, both in-game and in real life, so if my wife sees this part, she'd probably think I'm a skinwalker or possessed by something. Either way, I had a couple of boxes for iron, a box for copper, a box for power supplies, you name it. Let's put that in there. Yep, now we are a proper, organized civilization. Iron bars. I realized since I was dividing and dedicating each material into its own wall storage unit, I spent a lot of time creating even more wall storage units, eventually spilling into this corridor here. Also, by this point, the old base was nothing left but an airlock, and with one final goodbye, I took it down. Let's do this. Oh, I could. At the new base, I decided to add another habitat room connected to the one I already had, which in turn required me to rearrange a few solar panels and batteries. The reason for this new room? I needed a dedicated space for all the machines I don't use every day, but still are important. Things like the research station or the tool modification station. I also realized I could build an upgraded, more advanced version of my fabricator. It's called, well, the Advanced Fabricator. This is looking really good. We're doing great. The last bit of tech I really wanted to make was the hydroponic planter, which would be nice since I would have liked to start growing my own food, but I hadn't been able to come across the fertilizer packs just yet. All right, see what kind of we can do here. Battery saver, 2 glass. Well, that's kind of cool. Mining power, mining speed. Oh, these are all very useful. It did, in fact, all look very useful. I upgraded my mining power on my mining tool, as well as crafted this battery saver upgrade, which I realized could be attached to this scanner tool. Dude, I kind of want one more. I mean, that battery saver is kind of nice. 2 glass. After some more crafting, I did end up fully kitting my mining tool with the battery saver, mining power, and mining speed perks. I went back outside to that quartz deposit that I wasn't able to mine earlier. However, it would seem even with my upgrades, the quartz would have to wait. Nope, not exactly. Well, that's fine, because the other thing I wanted to do was look at some of these chests. For this next part, I might look like a bit of a doofus here, and well, that's because I am. As it would turn out, the laser tool does actually work on these, but required the laser to be pointed at the 4 corners of each of the box to actually open. Oh, it's the lights. Oh, I'm such a dummy. Inside the container, there wasn't anything too mind-blowing. There was the usual mining packages, which gave some iron and copper bars, but the real prize was awaiting me in the locker at the back of the container. Food, and a space donut. There was also some ice nearby, which I mined because I was getting a bit thirsty. I also decided to take a quick pit stop back at the original escape pod. I was actually just double checking to make sure I hadn't missed anything, and sure enough, not much going on there. Terminals. Oh, I've never actually noticed this. Well, it probably would have been better if I had noticed this in the beginning of the game. I figured it was fine since I had been roughly following the signal markers on my own anyways. I was reminded of the vertical station, a place I went to earlier but never fully explored. I start to read over some of the logs that the crew had left behind. We've detected strange anomalies around the outpost. Some of our crew members have gone missing. They probably just quit. They're not missing, they just found a new job. I decided that this is probably a good time to go back and give the vertical station a second look. So from the escape pod, I flew over in the direction of Mox Island, picked up some of these fungi, and made my way past Mox Island towards the vertical station. This time, I packed enough extra oxygen because the idea of running out mid-adventure didn't exactly sound like a good time. Wow, lots of stuff. Yep, time to load up our pockets. Whoa. This is some stuff. What is this? 0G regulator. Yep, that'll be useful. I wasn't sure exactly what the 0G regulator was used for, but I nabbed some up all the same. I also came across this log from Marcella and Elara. A spaceship. It's coming through the asteroid belt. It's headed straight towards us. A spaceship? Are you sure? I'm positive. It's massive. I can see the thrusters from here. Not one of ours, though. Looks like something else. Something old. After reading through it, it would seem that they realized no help was coming to rescue them, and they made a break for a derelict spaceship of some sort. We'll get to that in a bit. I explored a bit further into the station, finding a few of these Celestite packages, and I promptly gave each one the customary whack with my scrapper. Popping an oxygen tank, I made sure to leave no stone unturned in this place. The vertical station is indeed very vertical. They were not lying about that. Eventually, I reached the top level and I came across this hallway with another WIP, or work in progress, locked door. And I'll finally admit it, at the time I wasn't sure what whip was, but I gave it a blast with my laser tool just for good measure. With nothing else here for me, I floated back out to space. I checked off the vertical station as a place I've now fully explored, or at least as much as I could. I mean, that must be the ship they're talking about. That thing. Yep, definitely looks very old. The trip back was somewhat of a long one. When I got back to base, I researched this blueprint, which gave me mining power tier 2, which I then used to upgrade my mining tool up a bit more. My drill is quite lethal, quite potent now. To prevent myself from going insane, I did end up fitting these glass windows all around the main area of my base so I can look out and enjoy the $1 million view. Ah yes, space rocks, stars, and, well, not much else. I also spent a good amount of time opening up any and all crates. There were a few on this asteroid near my base, and I also took my skipper down to the island near all that copper ore to open up those crates. However, there wasn't anything mind-blowing from these, and if anything, while I didn't think it was possible, I was starting to get too many space donuts. Don't think we'd need any more. Oh, and remember those zero-G regulators? Well, it turned out they weren't meant to be inhaled, but rather to be used as an ingredient for vertical habitat pieces. And since I'm always happy for a base upgrade, I was more than willing to give it a try. Yeah, let's go vertical X corridor. What would that be like? Iron bar, gold bar. I think I actually have some gold. I gathered up the materials I needed, headed back out, and spent a lot of time trying to align the vertical corridor with my main habitat room. However, I would soon find out that this was, in fact, not how the vertical attachment works. According to the wiki, it can only be attached to other corridors and cannot be attached to any habitat rooms directly. I ended up going with a T-style vertical corridor, and after some wrestling with the positioning, I got to align and attach to this cross corridor I put down earlier. Upon checking the inside, now I could see that it had worked. Whew, mission successful, but I wasn't done. I wanted to create some sort of residential observatory room that was separate from the main area I've been working on. This looks fine. This would be my personal living quarters, and I put down this fancy desk and a chair in front of the window for the best views my base could offer. I realized I could also make the engineer's suit, an upgrade that would bring my HP to 200. The only catch? Well, I needed the resin canister, something I never bothered to make before. Fortunately, my base was so well stocked at this point that it wasn't an issue. A few minutes of crafting later, and the orange engineer's suit was ready. Looks pretty nice. Looks a lot better than the stuff I had before. Okay, I think it's about that time. We gotta go meet those octopus bullies in the wait, what is this? Red. Vehicle manufacturer cave. With the laser tool, I was feeling a bit more confident, perhaps overconfident, in exploring more of the red cave area, which turned out to be the vehicle manufacturing cave. Once inside, I could hear the same pulsating, growling that I had heard earlier when I made this trip the first time. Come here, little beastie. Where are you? See him. He's gonna come charging. He's gonna come charging. Whoa! I was covered in octo alien goo, but I would say the laser tool field test was a success. Though I will mention the laser tool didn't one-shot the alien, and actually it was able to push me a little before I was able to take it down. And if it sounds like I'm foreshadowing something, that's because I am. Anyways, I ventured deeper into the cave itself and eventually came across this summoned vehicle fragment. I wasn't exactly sure what a summoned vehicle was, but the more loot, the better, so I didn't question it. I also eventually came across a more open area with another one of these shipping containers in it. Inside was the usual loot packages as well as this log that was left behind. Guys, seriously, this isn't funny. Get me out of this damn container. Oh, come on, Logan. You said you wanted some alone time, so we gave you some. After getting slightly carried away with acting out the recording, I explored a bit deeper. Just past the container was this lower area with, you guessed it, the final piece of the summon vehicle. There was also this big chunk of nickel ore, which was a relief because at this point, I still hadn't been able to find a good source of nickel. Yeah, at least this place doesn't have any giant, like, monster things waiting for me. After skimming around nervously, I realized that I really was safe for the time being. In fact, I was completely surrounded with nickel asteroids, a rare sight by this point. So I took the time to harvest up all of them using my upgraded mining tool. I ended up following the nickel down a tighter passageway. However, catastrophe was about to strike, and well, nothing would have prepared me for what happened next. Couple of these, eh? Oh, 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 no. Okay. How'd that latch onto me? Good God. Was it two? Did it? Whoa, wait. It pushed me to near the opening. What is this? Okay, this must be the other side. Oh God, I'm about to suffocate. Okay, there's still another one over here. So I hear him. Oh, whoa, this is all invisible wall? Uh-oh. Did it glitch me? No way it did. Holy shit, I think that alien glitched me. Uh-oh. Unless there's like a way. These are all invisible walls. Oh, unstuck. Oh my God, you're kidding me. Oh, it threw me all the way back in my thing. Okay. Wait, it unstuck me and deleted all my items? Yeah, when it rains, it truly pours. I had made the critical mistake of not knowing that the unstuck option would be basically a death. This also meant all my loot was now stuck inside the walls of the cave itself. Looking back at it, I think I was doomed either way, as while I reviewed the footage, it may have looked like there was an opening to the rest of space. It actually looks more like I was surrounded by invisible walls, as you can see by these little bits of texture poking through. Okay, so the wall is here. Can I get my stuff? I, in fact, couldn't get my stuff. The loot was locked away forever, which was catastrophic on what was left of my mental, especially since I had just mined up all that nickel that I so desperately needed. Still, as I continued on a bit more, a glimmer caught my eye on the other side of the cave. I do see an old base over here, which is kind of crazy, but first and foremost, let's get rid of these things, because... Okay. Wow, there's a lot of these guys here. Okay. Almost clipped me into the wall again. Now internally, I was conflicted. Part of me wondered if it was possible to get one of them to push me through the wall again, just so I could have the chance of grabbing my loot and sort of banking on that I could figure a way out somehow. Luckily for all of us, the other part of me, the more rational side, won out. I kind of don't want to risk it. Pretty soon, I was coming up on this giant base, which I assumed was the actual vehicle manufacturing facility. I scanned this piece of vehicle docking bay as well as this one, unlocking the ability to make my own bay at my base. Wow. This looks like the inside of my guts after I eat some Taco Bell. As I floated more inward into the station, it turned out that this area didn't have any functioning airlocks, which is not ideal, but still okay since I came prepared and packed a few extra oxygen tanks. I went down this corridor and saw a teleport station, which I was able to scan, as well as this fabric package. Back near the actual docking bay, I scanned this apparent hunk of metal, which turned out to be a vehicle module fabricator, which I assumed was a way for me to get upgrades for my spaceship that I, at this point, didn't have. What the? Oh, I can scan this? It turned out I could, in fact, scan this. As a general rule of thumb, I've just been keeping a careful eye out for scannables, as oftentimes I couldn't tell if something was space junk or actually beneficial for my survival out here in space. I floated down the glass door and came across this log reader and keycard for Marcus Danner. This is Marcus Danner reporting from the Vehicle Manufacturer Station. We just picked up an emergency call, something about an attack near the outpost. It doesn't sound good. I don't know if attacks ever sound good, Marcus. I'm not entirely sure whatever happened to Mr. Danner, but I remembered his name on one of the keycard locks at Theta 9, so that keycard will come in handy later. Nearby was the Celestite package that I whacked open. Yummy. And I also came across this fertilizer package, which contained fertilizer packs, a key ingredient to those hydroponic growers. I could start my own farm. I saw this thing. It looks a lot like a TIE fighter. but I don't think it's anything worth scanning. With just about everything explored here, it was time to head back out. I was still a little sour about losing my loot box behind the cave wall, but I soon forgot all about it because in the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of what looked like an arrow. What is this arrow? Wait. Whoa. Whoa, there's a little slot. Oh, that's nice. But actually, this is useful. Yep. Oh, okay. Very nice. I did not know that existed. And I don't know if the devs knew that existed. I'm not sure if that shortcut was intentional or just early access things, but I wasn't about to question it because I would say my retinas by this point had seen enough red to last a lifetime. Also, as a side quest, I realized that there was actually something I had missed that probably would have been a great thing to have from the very beginning: the oxygen station. A device which produces a oxygen bubble once deployed. Remember how I said I couldn't tell what was space junk and what was scannable? Well, sometimes, as it would turn out, space junk is scannable. I didn't realize these were things we could scan. So... yeah. I also noticed this destroyed base nearby, which was patrolled by more of those red drones, but by this point I was well prepared to deal with them. I also found this note left behind by a survivor. Where the hell are they? It's been over 4 months since the explosion. Where are they? I'm starting to think they're never coming, especially with those aliens lurking around here. Last time I saw one was in that cursed cave. I couldn't even go inside. We already took care of the aliens, don't worry about it. Looking back, I'm not sure if the survivor was talking about the octopus aliens or about something else. Either way, I explored the rest of the wreckage, which had some mineral packages and scannables of machines I already had. Nothing to write home about. Oh, and if you're curious, I did end up building the hydroponic planter. Oh yeah. Yep. What we got? I actually had some extra seeds laying around, so I got started with this gargoyle plant. Look at that. Remember the vehicle docking bay blueprints we scanned from the cave earlier? Well, it was just about that time to finally get it set up for myself. A worthy upgrade for my already very impressive base. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, we're prepared for this. There we go. Ta-da! So does this work? Oh, very nice. Let's see how this goes. Oh, whoa, wait, what? Oh, what? No, the force field is not letting me in. Yeah, there's no vehicle dock because the force field won't let me in. Does the skipper not count? What? So yeah, the skipper does not count as a vehicle. I ended up going into the vehicle station and I noticed that the summoned vehicle was now available for me to build. That sounds great, but we don't have any of the things we need. Now, I may have misspoken earlier. Turned out all those missing ingredients were actually available to me by this point. I just didn't realize it. In the meantime, I remembered that I had found Marcus Danner's keycard, so I took a trip over to Theta 9. Mr. Danner's room wasn't too hard to find, and the key worked perfectly. There wasn't too much inside except for this tier 3 oxygen capsule. Looking around at the other rooms in the hallway, it looked like I still needed to find their keycards. Heading out of the complex and onto my skipper, I made my way back to base. I couldn't upgrade my oxygen tank just yet due to missing the advanced chipset. Again, this is something I actually could have crafted, but good old me didn't realize that at this point. You'll see why. Anyways, I whacked the gargoyle tree with my planter, planted another seed in its place, and headed out to explore a bit more. I was convinced I was missing something for sure. If you may recall, there was actually a yellow dome that I had noticed from earlier on in my adventure. I figured it was time to take a long overdue trip to see what was out there. Yeah, the yellow marker, the yellow dome isn't officially marked as a waypoint, but could still be worth exploring. Also, now that I have the laser tool, I should probably look at these cabinets. Whoa, what the heck is that? See that? so many random things. Aside from the usual smelted material packages and space donuts, the containers didn't actually have anything mind-blowing. We are going to that yellow place. The yellow dome. Nearby the yellow dome were the green drones, which shot these shiny little stars at me. Little strafe throws them off. There was also this deposit miner fragment. I wasn't 100% what it'd be used for, but I scanned it all the same. Can I go inside? Oh, I can. Wait, why is this yellow? Oh, I'm sure we'll find out. Lots of fiber. Whoa, this is a lot different. Can I harvest this? Use mining tool. What is this? Wait, what did I get? Celestite? Yeah, I think so. I'm running out of space again. Use scrapper. Look at that. Oh, now I can make fabric. There we go. I ended up collecting a bit more fiber, but I knew that as awesome as the surface looked, what I was really looking for, which to be honest, I wasn't entirely sure what that was, must be in the abandoned base. We got some sulfur packages stored here. Oh, nice. These things are extremely unstable. Even the slightest mistake could cause them to explode. Make sure to double check the installation before moving them. And for the love of everything, don't stack them like you did last time, Alex. I'm serious. Inside, there were a lot of things to scan, like this photo displayer, vehicle module fabricator, and a habitat colorized fragment. There was also another door that was locked, but the most interesting thing about this location were these high capacity packages, which contained sulfur. The fun part? They had a really interesting way of opening. Yeah, never make it easy. Hey, it's just never. Wait, what is this? I could scan that? This was the last fragment of the teleportation station, but beyond that, there wasn't much to see. There was the locked door, but I assumed that it was just inaccessible because of early access reasons. I left the Yellow Dome Island and continued on in my exploration. That green area doesn't seem very nice, so we're just gonna avoid that. This section of the asteroid field was mostly uncharted territory for me, but I did spot another blue dome tucked behind that scary looking gas cloud. Whoa. Okay. Big orby thing. It might not. Oh. Warp gate looking thing. Am I not supposed to be here? This smells like I shouldn't be here. This was the research outpost, and given the spaceship debris that I went past, I probably shouldn't have been here. On the plus side, landing here was pretty straightforward, and upon entering the dome, nothing popped out to lunge at me. Yet. Yeah, I wonder what is that stuff. It's probably nothing. Oh, what? Large habitat room. Whoa. What is this? This is a big solar panel, isn't it? Solar panel extender. While many of the space islands have been a hit or miss, this one was quickly proving to be worth the trip out here. You see, inside the research station, I came across more zero-G regulator juice, as well as this blueprint box that I couldn't pick up since, well, by now my inventory had completely filled up. In the main area, there were some tables and some warp coordinates to a new location. New warp coordinate discovered. Warp module blueprints. Oh god. Read log. Hey Alex, I set up your warp device in the testing bay like you requested, but it's not in great shape. This log was written by Reese Callahan, one of the names I recognized from the keycard locks on Theta 9. To make a long story short, the log had directions on how to best prepare for warping, specifying that one carries around extra power cells and repair toolkits. Reese warned that without the repair toolkits to fix damaged equipment, one could get lost mid-warping. Those fail mid-jump? No, he'll find you, ever. Oh, that sounds great. Reese, as it would turn out, was taking part in trying to research these squishy, funny colored rocks I've been coming across. They don't seem planted, they're fused, like the asteroid itself grew them. Why, that makes no sense. There were actually a lot of logs left behind by Reese at different times of their stay here studying the bulbs. They were emitting low-frequency energy pulses until one day, the bulbs emitted a burst of energy, high-frequency signals that we tracked for hours. When we triangulated the direction of the signal, we discovered something terrifying. It wasn't random. The signal was sent to a specific location, a cluster of coordinates that's light years away. We don't know what's there, a planet, star system, or something else. What have we awakened? Given that no one seemed to be left here, I don't think it worked out great for Reese. Truthfully, while I had hoped to find the answers to what happened to everyone, these logs only created more questions. On a more positive note, I did find this keycard for Reese's room. Here's Reese Callahan's keycard. I start to head out, but I realized there was one more hidden side area. Inside was Reese's final log. In a disturbing series of events, one day everyone had vanished, and it became evident that the bulbs were attracting something and that now they're here. Once outside, I decided at this point to take matters into my own hands and to do a little research of my own. Is this gonna kill me? Not killing me. What is that sound? There's something. What's going on over here? As I drifted through this orb, I kept a careful eye on my vitals, but I didn't seem to be losing any health or anything by floating through this stuff. Eventually though, the light got so white that I had a hard time seeing anything at all. I could hear this weird crackling or gurgling sound, and against my better judgment, I decided to feel around through the blinding white light to see if I can find out where it was coming from. But no luck. Yeah, okay, it's very bright in there. I can't actually see anything. But it didn't kill me, which I guess is good. On the same island, I also came across this mysterious cave covered in that blue grass. Or, honestly, looking at it now, it could have been fur. Things are starting to get pretty weird, so I wouldn't be surprised. Inside this cave was a lone container, which I popped open with my laser tool. Read log. Ooh, it's from Alex. Hey guys, I'm stuck in this container. Things didn't go well for Alex. This recording was taken during the point where the alien creatures were coming for people, and Alex, as unlucky or maybe lucky as he is, was trapped in a storage container. They're in, Reese. They're in. Alex, respond. Are you there? Oh boy. Oh wait, repair toolkit. And his keycard. While Alex didn't seem to have made it, he at least left behind his repair toolkit, keycard, and after some whacking, iridium. Pretty thoughtful parting gifts, all things considered. We'll miss you, Alex, but not your loot. I'll be holding on to that. I think that's it. All right. I don't know what these legs things are, but we're gonna head on back home now. I made my way out of the blue fur cave and back onto my skipper, feeling I had escaped one mystery only to find myself in another. If you want my 2 cents, I assume the kidnapper aliens were a completely different species than the facehugger squids from the Red Cave. But honestly, who could say for sure? I hadn't been personally kidnapped unless you count that one time I got glitched into the wall, but we don't talk about that. On the way back, I came across another blue dome. At first glance, it seemed pretty underwhelming with only a small container inside, but hidden within were fertilizer packs, which will definitely come in handy when I inevitably try to turn my base into a self-sustaining farm. Honestly, who's to say they're like evil aliens? They could be really nice aliens. Maybe they just want to give Alex a hug. By now, my inventory was jam-packed with goodies, so heading back to base was a requirement now. The trip back took a little bit longer, and the idea of upgrading to the summon vehicle was starting to become really appealing. I admit, however, that I was pretty proud of how the base was coming along. By the way, our base looks quite impressive by this point. Quite. Once inside, it was back to business. I scanned the blueprints I had in the research station, unlocking the tier 2 of the battery saver and the tier 2 of the summoned vehicle speed module, along with hook distance tier 1. Also, the advanced materials I was missing earlier, well, it turned out it was right under my nose the whole time. Ah, dude, have we had this whole time? I just realized we had the advanced fabricator this whole freaking time. Oh my god, kitty. Dude, it must have been when I built a bunch of these things and I just never checked. I like looked at this and I was like, that's a cool like couch. Yes, truly a blunder for the ages. That didn't keep me down for long though, because I realized that I had actually picked up a large habitat room blueprint from the research station and I desperately wanted to integrate it into my base somehow. Okay, this is very big. Where would I even want to put that? I took the time to assess. The idea was basically to swap out the machine room from a regular habitat room to the large habitat room. It was easier said than done, however, given how much was not only inside the machine room, but connected to it as well. Gotta deconstruct everything, because I think I'm gonna have to do some major renovations. again. I spent quite a while disassembling everything from the inside, then out. It was a bit of a pain, to say the least. But to spare you the long, tedious version of events, let's just say I eventually got the large habitat room to fit. And when I say eventually, I mean eventually. Don't worry, don't worry. We're putting you back on. Putting you back on. Small battery. Small... right there. This is what it looks like now. I still gotta make that second floor, but this makes a bit more sense. I reinstalled these vertical corridors as well as the captain's quarters itself and added an airlock on top for easy access. Once inside, I re-added the window, desk, chair, and of course, the bed. Okay, we need more windows, but we'll have to worry about that later. This is what I got. After a lot of work, this is the base. We got the vehicle docking bay with no vehicles in it. We got the vehicle construction bay where I can't afford anything. Got the laser thing that only mines iron. Got my personal quarters with not enough glass. The headquarters with... actually, the headquarters I'm pretty proud of. We don't have nearly enough solar panels and our batteries are too small and we have a big room with nothing in it. So... we're off to a great start. And with that, the machinery room was much more spacious and open. I made a mental note to add even more storage and hydroponic planters, but that will come later. I also added more windows to my personal quarters. Making my way down to the vehicle station, the next major project was constructing the summoned vehicle. I think by this point, I had outgrown the skipper, especially since I was in dire need of something with its own oxygen supply. The summoned vehicle required a lot of the higher tech only available in the advanced fabricator. Luckily for me, thanks to how I organized the lockers, it was pretty easy gathering up all the needed materials. All right, let's craft. So 2 orbiters coming on right up. Oh, honestly, it looks kind of yummy. All right, that's one. I went ahead and made the second orbiter, the advanced chipset, and finally, the engine itself. Okay, I think that's it. Vehicle engine. We've made a spaceship. As fate would have it, I actually needed more power before I could make the vehicle. I made a quick trip outside to put down this solar panel and headed back in. And now we should be able to make it. Here we go. Wow, that's quick. Wow, this is very cool. It honestly reminds me a lot of, if you guys ever played Homeworld, that series. Whoa. So with the summoned vehicle, I was able to finally dock it into my vehicle docking bay. I also decided to check out the console, which to my surprise had some pretty interesting options. What does this button do? Okay, well you guys already know what I'm gonna go with, so look at that. For those who understand my reference, reminds me of my old sea month. I also put down this vehicle module fabricator. It did exceed my power limit of my base, but I was able to take a sneak peek of the cool upgrades that I could get. However, at this point, I had a realization. I think what we should do is actually look at the battery situation. What I was referring to was, of course, the big habitat battery, which increased my power limit to 200 for each one. It was a new blueprint that I picked up during my travels, and it was about time to finally upgrade out of the small batteries that I'd been using. I crafted more of those advanced chipsets and floated around the outside to find a good spot. The big habitat batteries went over the corridors just like the small habitat batteries did. Yeah, I think I should probably upgrade all of them to be this. That's nice. I may have gotten a little carried away and slapped down 2 more of those bad boys around my base. Were they totally necessary? Probably not. I also added this airlock as an extra convenient entry point into my base. Okay. Yeah, this looks great. This is a space station. This is a space station. Oh yeah. Now my question is, does this provide infinite oxygen? Because if this thing provides infinite oxygen, I'm gonna be a very happy man. It does. I was a very happy man. Space exploration had become much more manageable with a way to get infinite oxygen. I went back to the research outpost and mined this quartz ore, as well as this one, and this one too. There are probably more, but I eventually stumbled across another deposit miner fragment which I scanned up. Sadly, I was still 3 out of the 4 total fragments, so I couldn't build the miner just yet. You know, it's always with survival games, I'm nervous that I'm missing something. Like something that I could have had this whole time, but I've just never either stumbled across or never bothered to look into. Speaking of things I might have missed, let's look at this warp gate. I saw this warp gate forever ago. This is very ominous. As I approached the warp gates, a new menu popped up, revealing that I could travel to other regions, specifically Theta 145. That sounds pretty cool, right? Well, there was just one small problem. My ship didn't have a warp drive. I also got a little brave and hopped out to see if I physically touched the warp gate, would anything happen? Nope, nothing happens. It would appear that curiosity did not kill the cat, at least this time. I headed back into my ship and looked for the final piece of that deposit miner. Luckily, I actually didn't have to go too far, and after rounding about this corner, I found the last piece. Heading back to base, I realized that I could and should get some upgrades for my summon vehicle. I crafted the storage compartment to start, which was quite telling of my priorities as a loot goblin. Ta-da! It's like a little vending machine. It's like my, it's like a can of Coke. And speed. How do I put this in? Modules? There we go. Yep. You can put a lot of modules in, apparently. Modules. Put that in there. There we go. So we can go farther. We have more, we can go faster. Whoa, this is pretty quick. We can go faster. We can carry more stuff. This is great. Since I was able to venture further out now, I decided to really take this thing for a spin. I want to see what could be lurking beyond the asteroid field. There's no like space dragons or anything. There's no space octopus butt lizards. No leviathans, right? There were in fact no space leviathans, at least at the time of making this video. But as I ventured further down, it became pretty clear that there wasn't much to see or experience. Well, except for the creeping sense of why am I still going? As I made my ascents, I came across the derelict spaceship again. It wasn't something I was able to explore on my skipper previously. Ooh, it's kind of hazy. Huh. Well, this is where those other survivors went. While it was true there were no survivors, it didn't mean it was pointless coming out here. I cracked open this container and looted it, but the real highlight, I stumbled upon a small cluster of gold asteroids, which will come in handy with all of the more advanced tech I've been making. As for the rest of the ship though, there wasn't too much in there. Again, I assume this was because Astrometica was still in the early access stage, and I'm sure there'll be more things to explore later on. For now, I headed back to base. I picked up a ton of blueprints, so I redeemed the tier 1 hook move speed, tier 3 mining power, tier 2 scan distance, tier 3 battery saver, and the tier 2 storage module. I also remembered that I did have Alex Turner's keycard, so I took a quick trip over to Theta 9. So it's down here, down here. No, that's not it. Neither is this. Alex Turner, here we go. Nice, with the hell is this? Alex, what have you been doing? And I'll keep this for round safekeeping. Thank you very much, Alex. Besides the questionable mannequin doll, Alex also had another set of warp coordinates as well as the super fancy orange bed. On the table, there was another log reader with a conversation between Ethan and Alex, again going over what to bring on a warp journey, power cells, toolkits, and possibly snacks. Ethan Carter I don't have. Reese Callahan I do have. Here we go. Oh, Reese. Much nicer, cleaner room. Reese's room was much tidier than anyone else's I've seen so far. I picked up these metal pole thingies, picked up 2 blueprint boxes on the table, as well as backpack tier 3, excellent. Definitely use that. I looked around for other things to pick up, eventually taking a look at this log from Reese, which detailed his experience trying to make sense of the alien bulbs, unable to make much progress, and in some ways, losing his grip. Well, looks like she's struggling with what those things are, but in the meantime, I'll take these power cells. Thank you, Reese. Back outside, I hopped into the summon vehicle and cruised past the Theta 9 outpost, eventually stumbling upon an area I hadn't explored before. And what did I find, you may ask? Well, a whole treasure trove of containers, guarded, of course, by a large horde of these security drones. You're standing between me and my loot. Wow, this place is heavily guarded. Wait, is that Nickel over there? Or do my eyes deceive me? Hold on. Before I could go check out the possible nickel asteroids, I spent quite a while clearing out the rest of the drones. Honestly, there were more drones here than anywhere else I've seen so far. And despite all of that high-level security, the containers they were guarding turned out to be, as the kids would say, mid. I opened them all up, hoping for something game-changing, but I think I might have stumbled across the galaxy's most heavily guarded clearance bin. Please, this looks like nickel. This looks a lot like nickel. Oh my god. Okay. We found it. At last. Yeah, okay, I got to deposit some stuff in my trunk. After clearing my inventory, I got to work. All this while, I had been scrounging for scraps of nickel, and apparently this was where it was all hiding. There was a ton here, and honestly, I was half tempted to set up an outpost mining base in this area. The drones were annoying to get past, and the containers were pretty underwhelming, but honestly, this nickel field made the whole trip worth it. Okay. I think we have just about fully exploited... Wait, nope, there's still more. There was also this bubble island below the nickel field. Upon landing here, it looked pretty similar to the others I've come across so far. Let's check out in here. Oh, jeez. The inside the base just reeked of bad news. There was this locked depot room, but luckily as I went further down the hallway, the keycard was right there. The log reader described some sort of an attack from something or someone. There was also mention of an armory nearby, but upon looking around, I think it must have been blocked off by this rubble in the way. I headed back up the hallway and towards the depot room. Yeah, they're just... At this point, I couldn't actually carry much more from this base since my inventory was beyond full from the nickel I had just harvested. Seriously, for those that are curious, this is what my inventory looked like now. Glorious, I'll admit, but also pretty cumbersome. So I decided now was a good time to head back and dump my loot. I made a mental note to swing by later. A quick trip back to the base, and I had a sudden urge to spend some time upgrading my storage. After all, I had picked up the medium storage blueprint earlier, and now I had this grand vision of filling the large habitat room with aisles of neatly organized containers. Oh, it's huge. Okay. Can I make it like a shelf? Like a row of this? Let's see. Put it, and then a second one. Nice. Yeah, so it's like row. Well, we're gonna make the row all the way down. It's gonna be a nice big room full of this. Oh, it kind of looks like an arcade. No, not an arcade, a casino. I was also reminded of the hook tool, something I've been actually putting off for the longest time now. The issue? Well, it will cost me quite a bit of sulfur, which was a material that I hadn't been able to find a ton of. But I figured I may as well make the hook tool, hoping that it'll unlock something else at some point. Yeah. I'll just leave it in my inventory. I don't know. I'm starting to have some buyer's remorse because that sulfur was all I had. So, yep. Also got a tier, upgraded my backpack. It's really important. I'm surprised I never got a bigger backpack given how much of a loot goblin I am. Either way, this is going to be a monumental upgrade because I'm skipping tier 2. I'm just going straight to tier 3. There we go. Oh, Jesus. Oh, wow. Yep. I'm like a storage locker. I have a storage locker on my back now. I spent the next 30 minutes or so building upgrades for my laser and scanner tool, but while doing this, I also realized there was one more room to unlock at the Theta 9 hub, Ethan's. A quick trip over there later, and I was back inside the old hub with the last keycard room to explore. No, we already did this. Ethan, here we go. Oh, Ethan was not in here. But his room is kind of nice. Inside Ethan's room was this toxic suit, which I assumed was some sort of hazmat suit, so I promptly scanned it. Other than that, his room was surprisingly intact, especially when compared to some of the others. Alright, guess what? Moxora finally decided I'm worthy of a gift. Yeah, you heard that right. They sent me the shiny new sonic thruster. It's like they... Wait, sonic thruster. Oh, snap. Do not engage a thruster while eating. Let's just say soup does not float as gracefully as I do. I wasn't exactly sure what the sonic thruster was, but I assumed any piece of gear called sonic anything would be interesting. At least more interesting than the hook tool. Sorry, hook tool. Oh boy, upgrade speed for you spacesuit. Oh wait. Oh, I just float around faster. Dude, for some reason I thought it was gonna be like a thing that I could use to move around debris, like a repulsion gun or something. No, but I think the sonic thruster is just, hold on, let me take this off. So this is how I move without it. Yeah, that's a little faster. That's not bad. I thought it was gonna be something way crazier. Okay, huh. I was a bit whelmed by the sonic thruster. Useful for sure, but nothing that I think would unlock an entirely new area for me. I also constructed the recycler again, and while I didn't have any immediate use for it, I decided to toss in some potted plants. The result? Organics and glass. Not exactly thrilling, but it's there. Next up was the toxic suit, and luckily for me, I had just enough iridium for it. Oh. Looks kind of snazzy. But I guess this means I have to swap between these two suits, which is not great. Oxygen capsule, nice. We can now last for 70 seconds? Wait, there we go, my mistake. Equipped it, it's now 170 seconds, my bad. Since my base had officially leveled up to a fully functional space station, I decided to build a few solar panel extenders. Hilariously, now that I think about it, I wonder if I could have just kept building them out indefinitely, but that experiment would have to wait until another day, because, well, since we have the toxic suit, why don't we check out the toxic area? My ship should be okay, right? Venturing into the bright green gas cloud was a bit nerve-wracking, especially since it was way hazier and darker than I assumed. Visibility was pretty much arm's length, so I had to be careful of not crashing into these asteroids. Speaking of asteroids, what is this? It doesn't scan it, but I could mine it. Just see what it gives me. Iridium! Oh, snap. This is where I want to be. Like the nickel asteroid field from earlier, I had stumbled upon where all of the iridium was being kept. There was also this outpost in the middle of the toxic gas, which you're probably thinking sounds like a really bad idea, and given the condition of remained of the base, I would have to agree. Inside of this base didn't really have too much to write home about, especially since I had already most of the scannables here. There was this pesky oxygen tank that was out of reach, but luckily I had a great idea. Wait, I have just the perfect tool. Oh shit. One pleasant surprise was finding the boost module fragment, which will be a welcome upgrade to my summon module. But the real prize wasn't inside the base, it was the asteroid field waiting just outside. Much like my nickel hoarding spree, I spent a while mining every chunk of iridium I could get my hands on. The bad news? The thick haze made navigating a bit tricky to say the least, and by the time I was done, my inventory looked like it was going to explode. A trip back to base was definitely in order. I think I've just about inhaled enough green gas, so heading back. Back at base, I realized I needed to vastly upgrade my storage, so I finally set up that row of storage units that I've always wanted. Yep, we will never, ever run out of storage space ever again. Holy cow, this is nice. So I'm gonna rename this as the copper one. All right, there's one last thing. This thing. So we have the deposit miner. You can't see that because my face is deposit miner. Finally, it's time. Thanks to all that iridium I harvested, I actually had a ton to spend on the deposit miner. The giant quartz deposit from earlier, I finally had the answer to it. However, it was actually pretty difficult to line up the miner with the asteroid and took a bit of fiddling. You see, it turned out I had to set up really close to the asteroid itself before I could place it down. Alas, a way to farm infinite quartz, which I guess would come in handy for installing more windows. All right, we're gonna build a lot more of these, like a ton. So, Gibsec. I remembered the large gold asteroids similar to the quartz ones, so I headed out that way to set up another deposit miner. Unfortunately for all of us, I have the attention span of a goldfish who's watched too much Cocoa Melon, so... Are there multiple toxic gas areas? Hold on. Hold on. Ooh, we're coming up on something. This is another gas area. Oh boy. I can't see anything. There's gotta be some sort of attachment or something that lets me be able to see through this gas. I mean, I see pockets. Good lord. This is the universe's biggest fart cloud. All right, well, hopefully I have enough power to make it back to base. Oh, I'm not sure if it was just me, but this green cloud seemed way thicker than the first one I went to. Piloting through it was a genuine nightmare, and unlike the previous gas cloud, this one didn't seem to offer much in return. No valuable resources, no hidden bases, just me struggling to see anything. And not wanting to get lost in there, I made my way back out. I also went back to that gold asteroid and set up this deposit miner there. Back at base, my captain's room was starting to really come together, and the base was starting to feel like a home. I'd come a long way. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. You know what? Maybe I don't need to be rescued. maybe I'm just like happy like this, you know? For those who are curious, the deposit miners did end up being worth it. The passive income was definitely the way, and the miners were definitely worth their weight. There's just infinite riches, infinite gold. Yeah, I think we checked about everything. So the only thing left is just that warp drive. Forgot what I acquired, but let's take a look. Warp module. Okay, we have everything we need to make a warp module, as well as some boost modules. Okay, we're gonna need to upgrade our ship. So fast forward like 30 minutes or an hour into the future. I ended up making the warp module as well as a bunch of other upgrades for my ship, like the boost module, which honestly, with my piloting, seemed more like a safety hazard. By this point, my indoor farming operations had come a long way, and I had 4 planters constantly producing celestite and fruit. It was now time to check out the warp gate. It didn't activate for us earlier at the time, but with the new warp module on my ship, things should be different now. The menu offered me 2 areas I could go to, Theta 145 and Theta 12. I picked Theta 145 to start, and I was greeted with a sick hyperspace warp animation. On the other side was a stunning new area that I could explore. However, there was a catch. A notice popped up saying that this area wasn't actually completed yet due to the game being in early access. Wait, what is this? What is that? A little nugget of iridium? No? Oh, it's nothing. Is Theta 12 anything? Oh, Jesus. Theta 12? Okay. What do we got? What do we got? Oh. Wow, this place is spooky. There's nothing here either. It would seem that this was about the end of playable content, at least story-wise for Astrometica. Honestly, I was pretty invested in the story by this point, so I was a little sad inside. However, upon joining the game Discord, I learned that the dev, Barry, was actually hard at work with adding a ton of new content very soon. Honestly, judging the screenshots he sent, it looks incredibly promising, and by the time you're watching this, there's a good chance that all this new content has been out already. Either way, this adventure has been nothing short of amazing. What started out as a struggle just to stay alive and scavenge enough resources eventually turned into a series of adventures and plenty of misadventures that led me to building a fully functional space station. Looking back at the magnificent journey I went through, I can't wait to see how Astrometica develops over time. If you'd like me to revisit Astrometica when it hits full release, let me know. I'm always ready to dive back in and see where the story goes next.